What's up, everybody? As promised, here are my top 3 league starters for the upcoming Path of Exile Necropolis League. Let's get started. Coming up first is the champion bombarding clones. I fell in love with the bombarding clones skill gems at the end of Affliction League. I started messing around with them, and I was blown away with how good they are bossing. It's very similar to totem builds. You place the minions, blink around with blink arrow, and you just focus on dodging while they just dish out quite a bit of damage to the bosses. You can also make the build quite tanky without the need to invest too much into damage. So let's get started. Here's the overall view of the build. I'm going to include all this in Path of Building. For newer players, I've put in early leveling item sets, mid-campaign, early endgame, and endgame. So be sure, if you're new to the game, to go through these and familiarize yourself. This just gives you an idea of what you need to look for on the ground as you're making your way through the campaign towards maps, and what you want to look for at the early stage of maps when you want to start getting going towards yellow maps type deal. And then at the end game, this is what you want for your final setup when you're starting to take down pinnacle bosses, uber bosses, stuff like that. So let's get started. When you're leveling this, what I'd recommend, and those of you who are familiar with the game don't necessarily need, you'll know how to level your character, but for those of you guys who are new, I'd recommend using caustic arrow to start out. And again, that's going to be included in the early leveling item set. So if you go early leveling item set, early leveling skills in my POB links, you'll see that I've got, show you what gems to use. I try to make it as easy as possible for you. The new automation gem's going to go here. At this time, I can't put it in to the POB yet, but that's what's going to trigger your steel skin now, because you can no longer put it on your left mouse. So that's very important. Make sure you put that automation gem with your defensive skill while you're leveling if you're new to the game. Anyway, let's get back to the tree. So if you're using toxic rain, when you're starting out, you can come this way and just take these attack speed, armor, life nodes. Art of the Eye Gladiator is great. And then you swing over here and get Avatar of the Hunt. Eventually you're going to get this master here anyway. Blink arrow, mirror arrow have 100% cooldown. It's very important to the build, so it's a good path to take. It saves you a lot of regret orbs down the stretch. Then you're going to swing up here. At least that's what I recommend. Those of you who know what you're doing, feel free to divert from the path a little bit. Sentinel's really good, gives you plus 10 all resistance, really nice early on. Come up here, and then I'm just going to keep going this way, straight up to minions. This will get me through first lab. Just with toxic rain does really good damage if you make sure you have a decent bow. So I'll go do that. That's about level 30. So here's where I'll do first lab, and if you're doing solo self-found, you can just run first lab over and over again until you get the bombarding clones gem, or the you can either get mirror arrow bombarding clones or blink arrow bombarding clones. You also want the prismatic ones, so to your own discretion, keep running lab. If you're in trade league, just trade for the gem as soon as you can too. You can just skip running the lab if you like. Continue on with toxic rain. That'd probably work fine. There's some more bow damage over here, so you could always just go down here, do some toxic rain, and then trade for that gem. So if you're playing trade league, that's another option. If you're not, I just run the lab, and then you can grab these minion nodes right here, and that gets you started. From there on, it's pretty easy. Just switch over to my skill gem set. I'll go back to my champion. Go back to the early leveling stage. Or sorry, not early leveling, mid-campaign, and you'll see how to upgrade it from there. So early campaign is going to show you the toxic rain, caustic arrow setup. Switch your gem set over to mid-campaign, and then it's going to show you how to level with bombarding clones. One of the beauties of this skill gem as well is you get a free aura. As long as your clones are up, you got a free malevolence aura. So as you're blinking around, just make sure you hit malevolence is on, and I just kind of keep blinking, blink, 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 and that aura is always going to be running for no cost whatsoever. It's amazing. And the beauty of these guys too is you can put life on hit if they're dying all the time, and then you'll always have that aura. You don't have to worry about it at all. So that's a really nice setup. And then again, make your way into early end game. This will make you easily blast maps. Back for your skill tree. I mean, you'd be coming up this way, leveling. So I'm going to take this off. This is where we left off here. I grab this minion node here, this one here. There's a couple ways you can do this now. You can come up this way. You can come up here and grab these minion attack speeds. This one's also nice, makes your blink arrow work quite a bit better because the reductions to a minion attack speed affect you. And then you can come over here, and that's leading into the tree we were just looking at. Another way to do it is to come straight across here. I don't recommend doing this because there's no damage over here for leveling until you get. Actually, I guess you're good actually. So you can just go straight into this wheel. But I'd take this path personally, up through here, and then probably regret to this later when I want to put this cluster jewel in. But to your discretion, obviously. There's more damage here. Or you could just skip all this again because that cluster jewel's got it, and you can come here. Because mana's a problem. That's what I forgot to mention earlier. When you're leveling this character, if you switch from Toxic Rain or even earlier, can really be very helpful to get these two nodes here. Not only does it give you intelligence, but it gives you mana regeneration. And later on when you're getting into early maps, you're going to need this probably, or this, or you're going to have a hard time with mana. Because it's all going to be reserved. You don't use Eldritch Battery. You need just a little bit of mana reservation because you're going to be sitting around 100 mana all the time. So you need at least a little bit. So this helps a lot. And if not, just grab this. And a lot of times with duelists playing a minion skill, you're going to run into intelligence problems anyway. So that's fairly helpful when you're getting started out. But anyway, try to make it as easy as possible for you guys. Here's the full skill tree again. Just check the notes very carefully. Refer back to this video. Obviously, this is how we started out when we're leveling Toxic Rain to get this armor, this attack speed, the bow skills. You don't need this mastery until you're starting to use Blink Arrow. And then you just refund this at the end game. This would be also at the start. As you can see at the final build, I've just switched over to this. This gives me enough mana regeneration. That's not a problem anymore. And there you have it. I was able to blast every boss no problem in hardcore with this at the end. And then I died to Uber Eater. And then with standard with the same character, I killed every single Uber boss. I only died a couple times to Searing Exarch, Cyrus, and Uber Maven. So it's incredibly powerful. It'll easily get you through hardcore, no problem, or solo self-found with not too much investment. So that's our first build, and we'll move on to the next. Alright guys, up next is the boneshatter Juggernaut. This has been an incredibly popular build, and for a damn good reason, for quite some time. Let's get to it. So, when you're leveling this off, what I like to start with is Spectral Helix. The best path I find to take is this one here. Gives you a lot of life and armor. Then you go up to Born to Fight, and then you can grab these resistance nodes. It's very helpful. That way you don't have to worry about resistances as you're leveling up in the early stages of the campaign. From there, it feels a little bit sloppy without attack speed, so I like to come this way. There's some more two-handed damage right there. And then you can come down all the way over here to get Art of the Gladiator. Takes your armor penalty off as well, which is extremely helpful up until you get your Ascendancy. From there, there's a few ways you can do this. You can continue leveling with Spectral Helix all the way past level 28. Sometimes I like to just switch over to Boneshatter right away, and then what I do is come down this way. And I grab Tribal Fury right away and get the additional strike steals. That's crucial to clearing as you're cruising through the campaign. Then you can grab these reservation nodes. And then I like to just go straight for these axes here. And then this will give you the onslaught on kill. This is going to make your life in the campaign a lot easier, that's for sure. When you get this onslaught going, all that. From there, there's a lot of really good masteries. Oh, sorry, I missed this two-hand damage here. Don't forget about that. Double damage is quite important, obviously. 40% damage with hits against rare and unique enemies. This is crucial. Now, whether you're doing Helix or Boneshatter, this is very similar either way. You just don't want the strike skills, because Helix is not a strike skill. It's an attack, so this is going to scale with Helix. Anything like that, physical damage is going to scale with Helix. So just keep in mind it's not a strike skill, so do not take this. If Helix is feeling really good for you and you're level 28 and you just decide you want to level Boneshatter in your offhand and stick with Helix, that's great. Honestly, it might be better for a lot of people, for sure. Helix is quite strong despite being nerfed, especially in the early campaign. Anyway, this is the beginning here, so from here you can grab this armor, whatever you need, more life. If you feel like you need more damage, what you're going to do is probably swing over up here to this axe node up here. And again, there's some more armor here. Lots of life, whatever you need. So really it depends on what you find on the ground. Like if you feel like you don't have enough life on your gear, grab the life nodes. If you feel like you're not doing enough damage, try to upgrade your weapon. Go for more axe damage, go for more physical damage, go for more two-handed damage down here. Take this physical damage here. Again, if you're not feeling tanky enough, you can grab fortification. You can put the fortification gem on throughout your leveling experience. So there's a lot of different options here. Jugs are quite tanky as they are. If you scale enough, a little bit of armor, lots of life, and your resistances are good, you can just go all out damage. Your life can be quite low, and you'll be fine. In the early stages of the campaign, I wouldn't worry too much about scaling your defenses. Go for this damage for sure, as much as you can. Sorry, not that. Take these two-handed nodes, especially these. That's your damage path right here. And as you can see, there's life here. There's life. There's armor here. There's resistances here. Resistances there. More life here. More life here. Everything you need is right there. You got a jewel slot right here. You got some leech right here. You got a mana problem. You just got to grab this little mana node right here. A lot of times leveling up with melee and stuff, I'll just use an enduring mana flask. I'll just craft a mana flask till I get the enduring and I spam that thing and it's usually fine. You can also run a low level clarity. And keep in mind, just like my last build, go to these settings and make sure you check that out, especially if you're new to the game. The early leveling skill gem sets, mid campaign, and there you have it. And once again, I'll just quickly show you guys the finished product. That's what you're going to see on the POB. Just refer to the video if you're struggling with it. And, remember what I said, whatever you need. If you need damage, grab these nodes. If you need more life, everything's right there in this starting out position, right where I'm circling. That's everything you really need to get through the campaign. You might need this leech node, and then as you finish the campaign, you can grab the spell suppression. You grab these extra endurance charges, that kind of stuff like that. Alright guys, on to the next. Alright guys, up next is the Fire Trap of Blasting Saboteur. Anyone who's been watching my videos before knows I absolutely love traps, especially Fire Trap. I've been playing Fire Trap pretty much since I started playing PoE. It's my go-to skill really when it comes down to it. I just know it inside and out, and Fire Trap of Blasting is a criminally underrated gem right now. I killed the Maven at level 80, messing around in standard with pretty mediocre gear without dying. At level 80, like 4,000 life. It's already got enough damage. At that point, I was running T16s at level 80, and I wasn't even using all my best gear from my standard stats, just like mediocre stuff you could easily craft within the first week of the league. So let's get to it. Fire Trap of Blasting is a lot different than Fire Trap. It doesn't do damage over time, it scales off the hit. So what you're scaling is crit and power charges, trap throwing speed, stuff like that. So here's just an overall look, and again, this is what you're going to see in the POB. But when you're leveling it, let's check it out, the early leveling stages. Again, this is just going to show newer players what they're looking for. And here's the gem sets that I like to use. Explosive Trap got nerfed a little bit for the leveling stages, but it's still very good. So right off the bat, you get it. Stick Swift Assembly and Chance of Poison, and it still blasts. It's not as good as it once was, but it is what it is. It's still pretty good, and then you don't have to worry about refunding your skill tree after. Once you get to mid-campaign, still use Explosive Trap or Fire Trap, one or the other. Both of them work quite fine. And then again, you don't have to waste a bunch of regret orbs down the road. You can also run Lab over and over again, your first lab, so you get either Explosive Trap or Shrapnel, which is an incredible gem. The clear on it is amazing. It just blasts the whole screen. It's quite satisfying, especially with cluster traps. Or get the Fire Trap of Blasting, of course. And I personally really love it with cluster traps for the campaign stages, early mapping. Just because the clear is so much better than Swift Assembly. Even though you're losing a little bit of damage, I mean, there's just so many more traps getting laid, but either one's fine, whatever feels better for you. Once you're finished your labs and you got your gems, the early end games, obviously you're going to be switching over to Fire Trap of Blasting. So this is how I usually like to do it. When I used to play Seismic Trap, I would swing across this chaos damage, but I did it a very similar way. Got these resistances, got this damage over time, and that. What we're doing with this build is a little bit different because it's crit, so I like to come in here, get the elemental damage, obviously grab the traps here. Then from here, this energy shield's amazing early on. Melding gives you 3% of maximum life. This energy shield's quite defensive, especially in the early stages of the campaign. Then you can get the plus 50 life. Saboteurs are pretty squishy as they are, so if you're a hardcore player especially, you're going to want to make sure you take care of your defenses on a Saboteur. They're kind of squishy, and traps do a lot of damage on their own anyway, so don't worry about damage as much if you're a hardcore player. From there, you can grab this trap throwing speed. Again, makes it just feel smooth, especially for the campaign stages. This helps out with your strength problem, being a Saboteur, obviously. So that's a good starting path. And then obviously Charisma. So as soon as you get access to auras, that's going to be when you want to move down here. Again, in hardcore, I'd almost want this aura before this stuff. What are we, 36? Yeah, this is about where you'd be at your first lab. This would allow you to run Determination if you're playing hardcore, and if not, you just run Zealotry. Or if you're comfortable dodging, then just run Zealotry and dodge like a badass. Spell suppression's here if you need it, especially towards the end of the campaign. You get more elemental damage here. So it's quite simple. As you start to make your way towards the end of the campaign, you're really going to start scaling crit. You're going to grab the extra curse as soon as possible, of course. But your crit chance you're going to want. So this is quite important here. 60% chance for spells. And again, that's right away once you start deciding you're going to scale crit power charges. But for the early campaign, I wouldn't worry so much about crit. You're not going to have the gear and high enough crit chance. Worry more about the elemental damage. So what I would do is take this fire damage first. This life. Maybe this mana reservation here. This puts you 68, so we're nearing the end of the campaign. You got 2,000. Yeah, life's looking pretty good. This is with, let's see, early end game. That's already a ton of life. So you don't even need this. That's for sure. Or that. That's plenty for a hardcore player to survive. You don't need anywhere near that as softcore. So if you're softcore, I would just dig down into these frenzy charges and power charges right away. Here. And here. Maybe the jewel slot. And you're just going to be smashing maps. You still got around 3,000 life. So again, whatever you feel you need damage, take damage. So a lot of players kind of look at these builds and get a little overwhelmed. And I mean, just look at your resistances, look at your life, and how does it feel? Are you doing more damage? Well, upgrade your weapon. Get more damage, skills on the tree. Look at your crit chance. If your crit chance isn't at least 25%, scaling crit damage isn't going to be that effective. It's almost better to take these crit damage gems out and focus more on elemental damage. So it all depends on how things feel. If your crit chance is 10-20%, you're not critting enough to really get that full effect of your crit multiplier, right? So take what you need. Going back to the overall view, here it is. 3 million damage with Uber Pinnacle bosses. It hits like a brick house for sure, and it's quite tanky. Almost 6,000 life, 60,000 cold max hit, 50,000, 50,000. So there's quite a bit. You can make this quite a bit tankier still, but in a league start environment, this is going to do quite well at bossing, and it does really well at mapping too because of flamethrower trap, and also you can use cluster traps. I think this cluster traps is criminally underrated myself. It feels really good mapping. A lot of people say traps are so bad at mapping, they're only good at bossing. Well, if you throw cluster traps in there, it feels a lot better. I personally think it feels a lot better sometimes if you put cluster traps in. I used to play cluster trap with ice trap, and it works great as well. So see how it feels, see what works for you. Again, if you're dying a lot, get life, get your defenses up, get that armor, get your spell suppression. Use that evasion to your advantage. Best of luck to you guys out there. I'm going to have 2 more builds coming on Thursday. One of them is the Frostblink Elementalist fire trap damage over time. It's a remarkable build. I ran it in the Gauntlet this year. Got to level 90. Didn't have a lot of time, so I just stopped there instead of pushing any farther. But it breezed through it pretty well because the damage is so high. It allows you to run all kinds of auras, focus on your defenses. So it's a amazing build for obviously hardcore players and solo self-found players. Again, I did quite well in the Gauntlet with it, and the next build's a surprise. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do yet, so stay tuned on Thursday night. I'll have a couple more builds for you guys ready for league start. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.